Welcome to the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together. Baseball family, welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast. I'm Brig. I'll be driving tonight's little boat we got going on here, and I got the Brad Master. He's right there. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing well, Brig. How are you today?
Good. Built-in bookshelves. Built-in bookshelves going on at my house.
Built-in. So I knew about the bookshelves. I didn't know you were going built-in.
All the way built-in.
Very nice.
Yep, we are renovating an entire... You know that back wall we recorded against in the dining room when you were here like 5 years ago or whatever? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
That whole wall is now about to be a bunch of bookshelves.
Wow, that's neat.
It's fun.
Are you still gonna have enough for all the books that you have?
Probably not.
That's my
only concern. Honest, we probably have. It'll probably be okay for the next 6 months. I don't know what's going to happen after that. Maybe we'll have to do another book fair, neighborhood book fair. I did that once. It was a riot, actually.
Nice.
Anyway, speaking of book fairs, when you're at your next book fair, you ought to pick up and grab some Chinook seeds, because what's better than Chinook seeds at a book fair, right? So
you're not
clearly,
wrong.
If you're taking seeds to a book fair, it better be one of your favorite things. It's one of our favorite things. And my favorite is and forever will be Parmesan and Pepper by Chinook Seedery. Brad's Hatch Green Chili, though he likes them all more or less equally at this point. Is that fair to say?
Tonight was Wilson's first baseball practice, and I was divvying up lemon pepper tonight.
Kids, yeah, you would.
Here you go. Have a little bit. Look like a ball player.
Anyway, you can try every one of their flavors, our favorite and yours. You can go figure out what your freaking favorite flavors are, because they're awesome. The best way to do that is go to ChinookSeedery.com. You can use code BTPOD at checkout. That'll get you 10% off your order. It supports the show. It'll support you. It supports Chinook. They do a great job. Just like on the packaging, it says the best seeds ever. We agree. There you go. Check it out. ChinookSeedery.com. Use code BTPOD. All right, here we go. We got some updates going on. This hot stove, it's hot. Okay. First things first, Roki Sasaki has now signed with the Dodgers. In case you didn't catch the memo, the Dodgers have reeled in another enormous fish that they do not have to pay very much for. A couple of last-minute deals. They got in additional international bonus pool money with those deals. The other finalists for Roki Sasaki, we heard, were the Padres and the Blue Jays. We talked about the Blue Jays being in on everybody, and so with their deep pockets, they're able to pay everybody. And we'll have a little bit more to say on this in a minute. Padres general manager A.J. Preller said, quote, "At the end of the day, we want players who want to be here," end quote. The thing I have to say about that is that's what everybody says who loses.
Exactly right.
Sorry.
That's the line. I want to hear something else. I want to hear, we're disappointed. We thought he would be a great addition to our team, but we're moving on. We're on to Cincinnati.
Just be honest with us, man. Like, well, we just want people who want to be here. It's like, no, right. Of course you do. But also,
because
we didn't win the game.
Right. If he came to you, then he would want to be there. Right? Like, it's just the nature of the beast. It's the way it goes. I get what he's saying. Right? Like, well, if he don't want to be here, we don't want him anyway. Neener. No, that's not true.
What it feels like.
You missed out on him. You still want him to be with you because you know that he can contribute and be a major player in your starting rotation. Everybody knows that.
4 years. Right.
And on the cheap for a team that needs... On the cheap. We'll get there. But I'm sorry, but I hate that.
I do too. I hate it entirely. However, this is another sort of blow, I guess, or harsh reality check for the Blue Jays, probably a good way to say it, because they seem to have been headhunting everybody. Certainly every big name.
Everybody. They did finally land somebody today, though. They got Anthony Santander,
They did.
5 years, $92.5 million. So they finally were able to throw some money at somebody and get them to come to Toronto, which good for them.
But
that's great.
Yeah, it is. But that's one of like 13 or something crazy. Like they just
Yeah.
are losing every chance every time they turn around. And I wonder if Vlad is the next one. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Could be.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
There's been a
So
lot of talk about him getting dealt, but they're wanting a Juan Soto-esque deal for
right.
like what the Padres got, and like that's
Yes.
a lot for a guy
Oh
who.
yeah.
The thing about Juan Soto is that he has been steady for every year of his career and
Mm-hmm.
dependable. Vlad's been very, very good. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
But a little bit up and down, a little bit more up and down than Juan Soto was, and that's tough to want to give up that many assets for.
I agree. You're not wrong. So the question, I'm going to save this next question. Okay.
Okay.
Can anybody beat the Dodgers? Okay, let's move on. Relief pitcher Tanner Scott. I saved it for 3 seconds. Relief pitcher Tanner Scott also signed with the Dodgers the other day. Let that sink in for a minute. So they just picked up Sasaki. Then they picked up the best reliever in the free agent market. And they just did so because they can so. That's all it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the details. 4 years, $72 million. That includes a $21 million in deferred money and a $20 million signing bonus. No big deal. It's a lot of tortillas. So, top reliever in the market this offseason by FWAR, according to Fangraphs, since 2023. There's a lot of big names.
That's more than Class A. For
right.
Those of you wondering, like that's great. That's outstanding for him to be the top of that class. Because I think he was like, don't quote me on this, but I want to say he was above Class A by like a half, by like 0.5. Something like that.
I'm not going to quote you on anything. I don't know about that specific, but I do believe you. There you go. Now, there have been reports circulating that the Red Sox offered him larger dollar amount and a longer term of the contract. We want to divest you of that. We've heard also on good authority that those are false reports, so don't get your hopes up or get upset because none of that was going to happen. Anyway, the Cubs, however, did offer him $66 million, and he chose warmth, deferred money, and more of it in Los Angeles.
Real quick, you bring up a really good point. Hold on. You bring up a really good point there, though, Brig. There is something to be said with playing in a warm weather city in March, end of March, all of April, May, September, October.
Yep.
Right? Something to be said for that to be your home city. Because I've always been baffled by the fact that Miami doesn't attract more free agents, Tampa Bay doesn't attract more free agents, San Diego. Because, my goodness, San Diego to me is the place.
Yep.
Everybody ought to want to go play in San Diego. I get LA, but getting to that ballpark sucks from what I hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
San Diego should be the place. Anaheim should be the place. That ballpark, it couldn't be easier to get to that park.
That's true.
Like, you would think that those places, guys would be lined up out the door to go play there, but there's something about the front office culture that's different with the Dodgers than it is anywhere else, despite the fact that we've seen the Padres want to win. We know the Rays want to win. I know they're not gonna pay as much, but
they're competitive constantly.
They are. Yeah. You'll go there and you'll win.
So here's the deal. I listened to Joe Kelly talk about this. Now, he was referencing Shohei Ohtani, but I think it's applicable here. He said, let's say there's a salary floor and a salary cap, and it's all, even. He says, you got a guy like Shohei Ohtani, everybody can pay him $10, right? He says, whatever. Just let's call it $10. He said, in the course of those negotiations, if the money is not the deciding factor in any way, where are you going to go? He says, you put on your list the best places to be in the United States. And he says, you're not going to get Milwaukee. You're not going to get Minnesota. And you're not going to get Pittsburgh. He says, you're going to end up in Los Angeles. You're going to end up in New York. You're going to end up in places like that. He says, so, he says, I'm only getting paid at $1 compared to the $10. I know where I want to go play for $1. My dollar, I want to be in a warm place where it's nice, where it's enjoyable to be, where stuff's going on. Can't blame that.
I said that, what was it, 5 years ago about Joe Kelly, that he feels like Southern California?
Oh, yeah.
He belongs there, absolutely.
100%. But I think he brings up a really good point, because if these other teams like Milwaukee, let's say, like Cincinnati,
Toronto,
if they can't offer the weather like Los Angeles or San Diego could, and they can't offer the bustling, high-flying nightlife like you could get in New York or Boston, then what else is there but money? And I know there's more to it than that. This is a gross oversimplification. But it is interesting to see why players who are truly great end up in the same spots a lot. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The great players who come from those other markets are homegrown or got shunted off there a lot. Again, this is oversimplification, but it feels like they're getting the Sonny Gray treatment, where they're like, we don't know. Let's get him out of here. And he ends up in Cincinnati or somewhere like that. And then he turns it around, right?
Well, and let's talk about an oversimplification. That was Sonny Gray with the Yankees, not Sonny Gray with anybody else.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I'm just saying, from one year to the next, culture aside, right? Maybe that was a poor example. Maybe, okay, all right.
But no, you're right, though. That
I just don't.
There's a reason the Dodgers have been consistently great for as long as they have been. And for a while, I don't think that the Dodgers had dysfunctional ownership for a while. The group,
for sure.
I think it was the Malloys that sold to the current group. They couldn't make payroll at certain points because they had bought the team on credit. They didn't actually pay for the team. They bought it on credit. That would be like you and I being like, hey, you want to go monster in debt and go buy a big league team? You're like, yeah. What assets do we have? A couple. Is it good enough? We'll say it is. Okay, let's go do it. And then it comes time to pay the team. You're like, well, we brought in this, but we brought it we have a couple of monster contracts that need to get paid, and it's not adding up. Right? That's kind of what was going on.
Right.
Before this current group. And now this current group is like, we got buku bucks and we're going to throw it around because we can. Also, by the way, we bring in more money from ticket revenue than just about anybody in the league. So it's hardly scraping our pockets anyway.
Yep.
Because we know if we have a good product in the field, we can jack up ticket prices and still sell out every single game, because this is the place to be in LA during the summer.
It continues to be, has been for years.
In a town that has a lot of money to throw around.
And a lot of offer, right? There's a lot of other things that people could be going to do.
Yep.
So it's hard to argue with Los Angeles. And as a Yankees fan, it's hard to be upset. I feel like morally, ethically, I'm not allowed to be thumbing my nose at the Dodgers and at the players that are choosing the Dodgers, because for years and years, that's how it was with the Yankees.
It was New York.
It was the same thing. I want to be there. I want to wear pinstripes. I want to win. I want to be in the nightlife or in the whatever. All the reasons, every single reason. And so that's just what we're experiencing now.
This is my last thing. My last thing on this particular item is I think that there's a shift in what players want Used to, it was they wanted New York City. New York City was the place to be, right? For
Yep.
anybody, everywhere, from everywhere,
Right.
right? But
Yes.
now it's like there's a shift in attitude, I feel like, from a lot of players where it's like, or just people, where it's like, the beach is nice. It's laid back.
Yeah.
I can just
Right.
chill on my phone, right? Like, don't have somebody mowing me over on their way to wherever. I can go to the beach and hang out. I can go to play baseball the same day. Like, it's nice. It fits my personality more. It fit my personality more. I know that.
Right. It would for you.
So I absolutely get it. But I want to
So
talk money, Brig, because this
yeah,
is really interesting. Okay. So do you mind if I steal the rest of this
jump in.
from you real
Just
quick?
get at it.
Okay.
Get after it.
All right. So we talked deferred money. Let's talk about deferred money. $21 million. Okay. But let's talk this year real quick. Jeff Passan says, as the team stands today, their 2025 payroll will be more than $375 million. The Phillies are next in line, about $70 million behind that. The Yankees are the only other team projected to be over $300 million.
Mm-hmm.
The competitive balance tax threshold this year, Brig, is $241 million.
Whoa. Holy
That
cow.
puts them $134 million over the threshold. Okay. Now, so how does this work? What does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the first year a team is over, they pay 20% on every dollar, 20 cents on every dollar that they're over, they pay a tax to the league. That's the first year. If the next year they're still over, it's a 30% tax, 30 cents for every dollar that they're over. Okay. Year 3 and beyond, 50%, 50 cents
50%.
to every dollar that they're over. And now, so this is why the Red Sox dealt Mookie Betts, because they were getting into that third year and they didn't want to pay that 50% or whatever it was at the time. I can't remember if it's 50%. It is a crime, but that's why they didn't want to do it. Okay.
I know.
That's why they didn't want to have him around. So think about the money that they have on the books just over the next 3 years, because they were over last year. So let's say they're just, because I haven't been tracking super close, we're going to say right now they're in year 2, 30%. Okay.
Let's say.
They're going to be over this year. They're going to be over next year. They're going to continue to be over. If they're willing to do that, good on them. Because guess what, Brig? They're going to be an absolute competitive balance tax hell in the coming years, because let's talk deferred money specifically.
Okay.
So all the talk was Ohtani. Now the talk, and it was Teoscar Hernandez and also Tanner Scott now. Okay.
Yep.
This is everybody who has deferred money. Ohtani, Betts, Snell, Freeman, Will Smith has $50 million deferred.
Whoa.
I'm shocked that guy has a $50 million contract, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't
and
know
not just
that.
because of who he is, but because he's a catcher. That's a lot of money for a catcher.
That's what I was going to say. Nothing against Will Smith.
Tommy,
He's great.
Right.
It's just,
yeah. Catchers don't get paid like that usually.
Right. Which is awesome.
Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, now Tanner Scott. That's 8. That's 8 guys with deferred money for a total of $1.375 billion with a B billion dollars.
Oh my!
In deferred money. That's deferred money. This feels to me, Brig, like they have an accountant who's like, if it's in the back of the book, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, that money does not exist. I will let future accountant, whether it's me or somebody else, deal with the logistics of the CBT, because at this point right now, we don't have to deal with it. Are we over? Yeah, but we're not that far over. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
That's what this is that eventually that money's going to come due, and it will be on the books. I don't know how you deal with that. So I'm going to say this is my last thing on deferred money for now. Dodger fans, enjoy the ride right now, because it's going to get real ugly in the future, because that money's going to come due. It's going to be on the books, and I don't know what you do as a team when you have an entire, when your starting payroll is at the competitive balance tax threshold, and then you're building a team from there. What do you do? I don't know what you do.
You panic. Unless you get all those t-shirt and jersey revenue profits and you start saving. You put it in the piggy bank. You don't
I
touch
don't
it.
know, man.
You
'Cause
invest
it's
it
gonna
and let
be.
it compound.
It feels like one of those things where the bubble is growing and growing and growing, and eventually it's gonna have to burst at some point. I hope it doesn't. I wonder if they're like, this league's not going to be around that long because nobody else is going to want to do anything. We're going to just drive fans away because we're going to keep winning World Series. The only people are going to want to watch baseball are Dodger fans.
Right.
I hope that's not the
Diehards and
case.
Dodger fans. I do too. That's bad.
They're like, that money will never be due.
You take it back right now.
I'll take it back.
Dang, I had something for this. It's okay. It always happens. Oh, can you put $1 billion in a Roth IRA or something? Like, is that possible?
No, not in one.
Can you
You
put
can
it
put
in
it
a
in
CD?
Maybe put it in a
there's
CD.
got to be a way to compound that money for a minute. It's like to try and catch
They're gonna
up
have
fast.
to because putting $1 billion in there on its own isn't going to be enough because you're going to have
No.
another 500 million on top of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
And
got
that's just off the
get in
even
front
billion,
of this.
Brig.
That's
not
fast.
even including the 375 million on top. That's so much money.
Listen, I know Senior Duke is a finance guy and an accountant and does all the actuary things. So when I say, for all you actuaries out there, I am specifically referring to Taylor Duke. Taylor, figure this out for us. Will you please do your forensic accounting, she, and get back to us? Okay. Get out your abacus. All right. The Padres are having a fire sale. The Padres are they've been in debt. We know that. They've had struggles with payroll the last, I think, 2, maybe 3 years. We know that. And they fielded a pretty competitive team last year. They went all out with every shortstop they could find, plus Luis Ariz. Now it's time to be done. They decided that once they lost the Sasaki deal, I think that was it.
Probably. Now, don't want to say that it's a done deal yet, but they're considering it.
Right. If we're hearing about it, if they're to the point where they're saying the quiet part out loud and they're willing to deal Yu Darvish, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., to name a few.
Manny Machado.
Right. Which
the
sounds
guys who put butts in seats.
Bananas. Right. Then they must be more serious than not, is what it sounds like. And who knows what'll happen. But it certainly is alarming. And if I was in Slam Diego as a fan, I would be up and set at the same time.
I would be too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this though, is was Jackson Merrill, was he a Juan Soto deal guy from the Yankees?
No.
I don't think so. No, but King was.
Yeah,
Michael King.
Yeah.
Okay. So think about the things you're getting back for these guys though.
Right.
You're going to be okay. That San Diego can say, like, I think the fans understand. I like upset. Yes, you're no longer to have Manny Machado. You're possibly no longer going to have Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts, Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish is old guy anyway.
Yeah, right? I'm not worried about that. Yeah.
And so, like, you've got all that going on, but I think that the fans in San Diego are gonna understand. They know that this organization, since the owner passed away, has been an absolute financial mess.
True.
There are lawsuits.
That's true.
They were kind of a mess financially when he was alive, right?
Well, not as bad as this.
So they have a better understanding, right? But they have a better understanding of what's going on, probably what's necessary to happen. And the fact that AJ Preller has a pretty good track record of being like, you know what, we got to deal a guy, we got to get some stuff back, and it worked. It's paid off.
It's true. You're right.
Because you can gut some farm systems for these guys.
And teams will.
Yes. Tatis? Yeah.
Oh, that's the first name that comes to mind.
Bogaerts? Yeah. There's a team up in the Northwest that needs a third baseman yesterday with some great minor leaguers.
Have you met Toronto? they they
They
will
want
pay
everybody,
you.
but
They will
but
pay
do they
you
have the
whatever you
assets?
want.
Do they have the assets though? But if you just want a boatload of cash for them, then maybe
I was
that's
gonna
what they'll
say
do.
cash considerations, man. That's what
Then they can
that's
go.
what that's
I don't know,
for.
but
Cash consideration. A player to be
maybe
named
cash
later.
considerations. Maybe cash considerations for like Darvish and Tatis, and then they use that to pay Bogarts and Machado, keep those guys around.
There you go.
I don't know.
Right. Give me a couple loonies and toonies and see what I can pull.
That's exactly.
Anyway, I lived in Canada, so that's how that goes. All right. Let's move on, but yeah, Padres fans, I guess we just want to hear from you. Like, are you as upset as I think I would be if I were in your shoes? So, anyway, let's move on to the Cubs. We got a couple things we want to talk about with the Cubbies. First, Kyle Tucker reached an agreement with the Cubs that avoids arbitration. Super duh. Why would they not do that?
Well,
1
they
year,
almost didn't.
16. I know, but come on now. 1 year, 16.5 million. And the question is now, because Brad, you said they almost didn't. The question is now, will this sour the sauce for Kyle Tucker? And, how's the business relationship right now? We'll see.
Honestly, I think what it is for me with him is like not so much the arbitration thing as the Cubs could get a really good deal on Tucker right now. Like really great deal on him by giving him an extension.
Yeah.
But they haven't done it yet. It doesn't look like they're going to. And
Which is
so
nuts.
he's going to hit the market and he's going to go somewhere else. And I'm not saying like he can. I'm saying he's going to go somewhere else where they're going to pay him way more money than what the Cubs are willing to do.
And he deserves it. So if he even if he's even 70% as consistent this season in Chicago as he has been in Houston, he is going to rake it in.
He'll finish top 10 in the MVP in the NL.
Yeah.
And he's going to have a killer season and he's going to go get paid.
Yep. And if the Cubs know what's good for him, they'll sign him now or they'll trade him and get somebody that they can control for longer.
The best thing the Cubs could do is if they are not contending by the trade deadline is get rid of him because somebody's going to pay top dollar for him.
That's right.
He's healthy. Absolutely. And maybe that's what this is.
What I'm saying.
Maybe that's what this is. They're just like, we'll see. And if we're there, great. If not, that's a heck of a trade piece.
Right. They got a blue chip sitting right in their pocket. Yep. I think you're right. Okay, last thing with the Cubbies. They have released/unveiled their Blues alternate. And this is awesome. So I'm going to go through a description of the Blues alternate. It's a new uniform, and it pays tribute to the team's history and Chicago's contribution to the electric blues movement that shaped music worldwide. The baby blue jersey marks the first time the Cubs will have fielded this particular color as the primary color on the field since 1981. The hat and the jersey's chest patch feature a new logo that merges details from Blues-era Cubs uniforms with inspiration from music instrument bands. The sleeve patch features custom lettering on a guitar pick. I love that detail. Divided by an electric bolt, symbolizing Chicago's legacy as the birthplace of the electrified blues. The jersey's custom numerals and nameplate take cues from blues-era typography. The socks pay tribute to the iconic blues anthem Sweet Home Chicago and features a 6-string guitar stripe. It is nifty. Also, if you look right in the middle of the shoulder patch that says Chicago in this lightning, can you see what I'm talking about? The Chicago, the C in the center of Chicago on the guitar pick one. That right in between the C on the Chicago guitar pick is the star, which is a nod to the Chicago's flag. It's also on the C on the chest patch. Super awesome.
Yeah, it is cool. So I'll be honest with you. When I first saw this, I was like, "Why? Why are we doing this?" Like, I didn't understand. But this makes a whole lot more sense. And the fact, Brig, that this is going to have them retire the Wrigleyville City Connect.
Thank you. Right? The
Yeah.
pajamas.
Yeah, I don't like
We're
that one.
getting
I'm
rid of the
not a fan.
pajamas.
Yeah, and I'm curious if MLB and Nike are going to really move away from City Connect because there were so many whiffs,
Yeah.
right? There were some really great
Yep.
ones, but if it was bad, it was bad. I wonder if they're going to do that and they're going to switch to an alternate, like something like this. Like this is basically a City Connect, but they're not calling it that.
Yeah.
Like even UniWatch when it first came out was like, "Oh, City Connect 2.0 because that's what the Dodgers did, so that's what the Cubs are doing too." But
Exactly.
apparently not. So, I don't know.
So, for those of you that are wondering what Electric Blues means, okay, look no further than BB King, widely considered one of the top and forerunning Electric Blues artists, but also Muddy Waters, I say. And a quick Google search told me that Rollin' and Tumblin' by Muddy Waters is probably the best, is what people are saying, electric blues song ever. It kind of ties in like exactly what Chicago style electric blues means and feels like, and the sort of the origins of it. So anyway, it's really interesting. Um, I love the blues. I have been a blues fan for 2 decades, I think, and that's not hyperbole. I was young when I found the blues. My family did me a solid and raised me right, and I can't get enough of it. I can't. So to see this as the inspiration, I got a little hot and bothered about it. It's pretty awesome.
Nice.
So,
That's cool.
all right. Last thing on the list, we simply must acknowledge that Bob Uecker has passed away, and it's a crying shame. Baseball has lost one of its finest personalities, one of its most terrific brand ambassadors, one of the greatest influences on spreading the game, both to the outside world as well as deepening and intensifying our love for the game within it. And in case you didn't know, you played 6 years of big league ball. He was a catcher. He recorded an absolutely astounding negative 1.0 WAR, which I think is hilarious and awesome. One of his favorite things he used to say was, sporting goods companies would pay me not to endorse their products. And that sums up the kind of guy he was. Everything was a joke, everything was tongue in cheek, everything was fun, and he was able to laugh at everything. One of my favorite things about him is that he was an Army veteran, right? He's a veteran. I love that personally. Didn't you say he was on Johnny Carson like 100,000 times because they just had so much fun all the time?
Yeah. Yeah, that apparently Carson would just invite him back because he loved having him, which I think is hilarious.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's so cool. He was on Mr. Belvedere for its entire run from 1985 to 1990. We all know him as the iconic play-by-play radio guy from Major League and Major League Two. If you ever hear the phrase "just a bit outside," that's Bob Uecker. Okay,
Or Ball 8.
but also, huh?
Or Ball 8.
Ball 8. I forgot about it. Ball 8. So even though in those movies he depicts he's a play-by-play guy for the Indians, he was actually the Brewers play-by-play announcer for 54 years. And that, I think he was, until his passing, the second longest tenured radio play-by-play guy in Major League Baseball. So,
yep.
super awesome. Tell him
I
about
won't
the
be listening to
bobblehead,
Brewers
Brad.
games. Okay, so I saw this. This is a quote from Boog Shambi, who kind of memorialized him in this article that I was reading. He talked about how he wanted his last bobblehead to be him rising up out of a coffin and saying, it's going, and then he would go back into his coffin, the doors would close, and he'd say, and gone. So good. But
That's his iconic home run call.
The thing that I always reference with Bob Uecker is his quote about the best way to catch a knuckleball is to let it stop rolling and pick it up. Because there has never been a truer statement made about catching in the world than how to catch a knuckleball than by Bob Uecker, because it's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
I love it. But baseball family, share your favorite Bob Uecker moments in the comments below. We'll give you a high five if you get the most likes. Okay. With that, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review the show anywhere you get a chance. We're on every audio platform. We're also here on YouTube. We do things on Spotify as well, where you can watch and listen. Don't forget to subscribe. That's the biggest deal, especially if you're here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. Stay tuned. We're ramping up some things, very exciting things actually, for this baseball season. We've shaken things up a little bit, so don't forget that on Friday we will be back with part 2. What used to be part 2 of the big show is now its own thing, and that's exciting. So I'm teasing it for right now, but there you go. Anything to say, Brad?
We'll catch you then.